reaction takes place, like deposition on the southern side and erosion on the northern side. This is the reaction of the longshore drift, the lateral drift at a few locations of Indian coast due to the man-made constructions, which we can't do away with it, which are required for the development, coastal development. And to protect these shores, there are various methods like beach revetments, sea walls, groins, offshore breakwaters, beach nourishment. Like you can find some parts of on the east coast, revetments, sea walls, and the groins are constructed to prevent the beaches from erosion. On the northern side of the constructions or the ports, like you can find these groins north of Chennai and somewhere in Gopalpur, and the sea walls also somewhere north of Chennai. And revetments you can find somewhere near Tuticorin. Beach nourishment is the one which is being carried out just to replenish the sand being eroded by pumping the sand either by this rainbowing technique or by pumping ashore or with other means. This is being done at present in Indian coast at Visakhapatnam beach. There is a small case study on Visakhapatnam dredging that we will discuss at the end. Now, having discussed the reasons for the deposition, siltation, and the dredging requirements. So now the dredging to be carried out, and what are the equipments are required to carry out the dredging. There are various types of dredgers. Basically, they are divided into mechanical dredgers and hydraulic dredgers. Mechanical dredgers, they are of primitive equipment. They are a very old type dredgers. And hydraulic dredgers, later on the developments with the technology. But still, we can't do away with this primitive equipment of these mechanical dredgers because they are required for certain areas of dredging, like tackling some nooks and corners and very stiff materials in small quantities, where these hydraulic dredgers cannot be deployed. Production levels of mechanical dredgers are very poor when compared to the hydraulic dredgers. We'll just have a look at the different types of dredgers. This is a typical backhoe dredger. An excavator is mounted on a pontoon, and it is a simple dredger. With the scooping effect, the material is picked up and loaded onto a barge, which is not shown here. And the barge is filled up, and the barge travels to the desired disposal ground and dumps the material or whatever, depending on the requirement. This dredger operates on 3 spurts, and some of the dredgers, they can move on their own with the thrusters for positioning in the dredging location. And this is a grab dredger, operates on the similar principle of the backhoe, but she can tackle higher depths than the backhoe. Backhoe has got limitations of the depth. It depends on her length of the boom. And they are not self-sufficient to carry the material, so they require the barges to transport the material. And this is another primitive equipment, bucket dredger, very old type of dredger. A chain of buckets are lowered into the seabed and material is scooped by the buckets and lowered, transferred to the barge, and material is transported to the dumping location of wherever it is by the barges. And these dredges have become almost, bucket dredges have become obsolete. Now coming to hydraulic dredgers. These are the dredgers of the day now, trailing section hopper dredgers. Now at present they are of minimum of about 400 cubic meters hopper size to now 45,000 cubic meters hopper size. Dredging is normally carried out by trailing, by moving ahead. The basic design of the dredger is material is sucked by a centrifugal pump and stored in the tank called hopper. The suction pipe is lowered on the seabed and the drag head which is there connected at the end, which is dragged on the seabed so that the material is sucked through a centrifugal pump and stored in the hopper. Then after completion of dredging, after achieving the maximum production for that load, they will proceed to either dumping or maybe depends on the requirement. There are other sorts of disposal like rainbowing or shore pumping by connecting a pipeline at the forward of the location. This is the TSHD dredging process. Like the trailing pipes are lowered onto the seabed and dredge the material, loads into hopper, then sails towards the dumping ground or maybe disposal location where they connect the pipeline and then dispose the material through pipeline for either beach nourishment or reclamation of land, etc. Or they may carry out the rainbow. This is the process of dredging. This is called one cycle. Then coming to the other hydraulic dredger, cutter section dredger, normally used for the capital dredging purposes, for creation of ports, for creation of new berths, or for deepening or widening of the channels, existing channels. Where PSH3s are not successful, even suppose the depths are available for deepening and widening the channels, the material cannot be handled with the TSHD. CSDs can be used. The CSDs are having two spurs for positioning and anchors at the forward for dredging operation. There is a cutter ladder which is at the end. The cutter is lowered onto the seabed, which cuts the material, and the material is sucked by the centrifugal pump, which is positioned on the ladder itself so that it will have a better suction effect, and pumps ashore. And the pumping capacity again depends on the type of equipment, type of dredger, all that. So this is the basic principle of a cutter suction dredger, normally used for the capital dredging purpose. And the water injection dredger, the latest invention a few years back. This is only an ancillary craft for achieving the even depths over the seabed after carrying out the dredging by TSHDs. This works on a principle like high volume of water is injected with very low pressure onto the seabed. And this is most efficient in the areas where the sediments are very light in nature and currents are prominent. So this high volume of water makes the material to be in the floating condition and gets carried away with the currents. And it is possible to achieve the even depths all over the channel for smooth completion of the projects. West Coast, these Indian West Coast, the water injection dredges are more useful. As I've explained, this is the TSHD dredging process, one cycle, and CSD's dredging process. They lower the cutter head onto the seabed, loosen the material and transport the material through the suction mouth to the pump and then to the shore through a pipeline. Now, there are different modes of disposal of dredged material. The simple disposal is like sea dumping. The trailing suction dredges, the material is stored in the hopper, is transported to the disposal locations designated and marked. And the bottom doors are opened, the entire material is dumped at the designated locations. Then there are other disposal techniques like rainbowing and reclamation at the reclamation sites for raising the levels. Typical reclamation site. And the small dredgers, the mechanical dredgers, they cannot carry material on their own, so it is loaded onto the barges and shifted to the disposal locations. These are the various modes of disposal of dredged material. So this is about the dredging, various types of dredgers, dredging equipment and disposal things and dredging requirements at India. And I would like to touch upon a little bit on the environment. For the capital dredging projects, for any capital dredging project, environmental clearance is required to proceed with regard to the dredging location, disposal permissions, and basically if the area is located near the mangroves to be protected. Permissions is not granted for the capital dredging works, the areas where mangroves are there, and freshwater bodies to be protected. And various permissions from the authorities to be obtained to proceed with the capital dredging projects. The procedure we need to follow with the environmental clearance. Like there are 4 authorities in India which they give the environmental clearance for taking up the capital dredging projects in India. The Ministry of Environment and Forest, Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry, Ministry of Shipping and Ministry of Defense. So we need to obtain environmental clearance before proceeding with the capital dredging project. And once clearance is obtained, we need to follow the guidelines issued to protect the environment. Now, having discussed the dredging over the Indian ports, now coming to shallow water dredging in India. India has an extensive network of inland waterways in the form of like rivers, canals, backwaters, and creeks, etc. We have about 14,000 kilometers navigable, like length of stretch uh, of 5 inland national waterways for the water transport, which need to be maintained. And that the depths are of less than 6 feet of water, and also the depths need to be improved to facilitate inland water transport in the national waterways. The shallow water dredging is normally carried out by the inland small cutter section dredges and amphibious dredges, which can move on the land as well as in the water. Government of India initially has approved the concept of Sagarmala somewhere in 2015. The concept of Sagarmala is the integration of the coastal development, shipping with ports and inland water transport. This is to promote the inland water transport and import of exports to hinterland. This is the main motto of Sagarmala, to improve the connectivity between the ports, coastal shipping, and hinterland. So, for which the national waterways have to be integrated and dredged for increasing the depths to facilitate transportation of cargo movement. The commercial aspect is not only the reason for improvement of depths in the inland water transport. As per the available data, the water table is decreasing. So to protect the water table or to conserve the water table, these inland waterways, rivers, canals, reservoirs need to be dredged so that the water table can be preserved. At the same time, the commercial activities can be improved. That is the purpose of this project. This was initiated by the Government of India under the guidance of Honorable Prime Minister and Shipping Ministry. These are the national waterways, 5 national waterways initially identified in India, where to facilitate inland water transport. Basically, the inland water, national waterways dredging and requirements are being looked after by Inland Waterways Authority of India in India. This is the National Waterway 1. This is covering the river Ganges, Bhagirathi and Hooghly, part of the river Ganges. It is having a stretch of about 1600 kilometers and it is joining the sea at Haldia. And this is the National Waterway 2 with a stretch of Brahmaputra River. And this is in the state of Assam. And National Waterway 3 in the state of Kerala, covering about a length of 200 kilometers. The National Waterway 4, the states of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, the stretch of Krishna Godavari river system. It is extending from Kakinada to Pondicherry with a length of about 3,000 kilometers. The National Waterway 5 in the state of Orissa. The present traffic status in our national waterways is only 2% when compared to the road transport of 54% and rail transport of 33% and other means of 11%. So that is the main reason Government of India is trusting upon for improvement of the national waterways. And the advantages and the logistic benefits by using the inland water transport is like this. An inland water transport vessel capacity of about 2,000 tons, which is equivalent to of 125 trucks load on the road. And coming to the operating cost, like it is 0.3 times less than the railways and 1.2 times less than the roadways. So it is more efficient to carry the cargo to inland water transport. And there are other advantages and like environmental and social benefits by using the waterways. Air pollution when compared to roadways and railways, it is very less. Noise pollution, soil, water, surface occupation and accidents are almost negligible. So there are more benefits by using the waterways. Yeah, with this, I complete my presentation. Then we have a small case study on dredging at the Kolkata port, where we have been carrying out dredging for last so many years. Like this is part of the National Waterway 1. This is the blue color is shown is the entire river from Kolkata to sea. This is the channel being maintained in Kolkata. But there are not much of problems in maintaining this channel, except a few bars here and there. They are being dredged. But the basic, the main hurdle for the Kolkata port is maintaining the Haldia port. Haldia port is located here, the western part of the Hooghly River. This is the Hooghly River. This is a distributary of the river Ganges. Some part of water is diverted towards the Haldia port and again joins the Kolkata channel down below, like here. Some part of the water is diverted like this. Haldia port is here. And again it joins the Kolkata channel here and hitting the sea somewhere down below. Haldia port is the main revenue source for the northeast region and for transportation of the cargo to the hinterland. This particular channel here across the river is the Auckland channel. This channel is called the Auckland channel. This is actually not in line with the flow of the currents. This is across the flow. So what Kolkata Port authorities have done, they have carried out lot of studies on this river. Morphology will keeps changing every now and then, and sandbars will keep shifting here and there. Though the channel is stabilized over a period of years, but this Auckland channel, which is across the flow, was creating problems. So this, to facilitate flow of water the downstream, A spur was constructed here connected to the shore to divert the flow towards the Auckland Channel. So the Auckland Channel was maintained for a long time with sufficient dredging, and there used to be about 20 to 25 million cubic meters of material was being dredged every year, and Kolkata port was spending about 400 crores per annum on the dredging, which was a huge amount on an annual basis. And later, what happened was like, as the sandbars keep shifting in the river, the flow of water, here the sandbars kept on closing, then the flow of water reduced towards the Haldia port. And the dredging requirement has increased in the Auckland Channel because there was not much of flushing. Expenditure was increased. So the later on development was Auckland spur was removed, which was diverting the flow towards the Auckland Channel, and the flow was diverted to the Eden Channel. This channel is the Eden Channel, and it is in line with the flow. So with this development, this channel got opened up on its own and facilitated shipping through a different route to the Haldia port with a separate route. So they need not use the Kolkata channel up to here. They can use a separate channel and enter into the Haldia port. Because of which, like, we are able to maintain this Eden channel, and there is another dredging, the Gillingham channel, with about 8 to 9 million cubic meters of dredging. So the dredging cost has been reduced by almost 50% with this development. So these are all like the river regulatory methods need to be adopted in taming the river to ensure like the minimum expenditure on the dredging. But it is difficult to remove the material from the system in the rivers, but it need to be carried out very, very long distances, which is not at all economically viable. So the material dredged is dumped nearby here and there in the deeper pockets, and some percentage again will come back into the system. Apart from this, the regulatory methods to be adopted in the rivers to reduce the cost of dredging. This is one small case study basing on my experience at the Haldia port. Then there is another case study, as I explained about the lateral drift and deposition on the southern side and erosion on the northern side. So to prevent the beach, the Visakhapatnam Port Trust, we carry out beach nourishment every year to ensure erosion is protected, or whatever the material being eroded is being replenished. I will show you some pictures. These are the pictures due to the erosion during the monsoon season. This is a Visakhapatnam beach. Beach is getting eroded due to the lateral drift during the monsoons. So what we do is that this is the typical layout of the Visakhapatnam port. The sand trap is located here. This is the sand pit, and this is the breakwater. This Breakwater is a typical construction not connected to the shore. It is a floating breakwater. So during the monsoon or whatever, or due to the lateral drift, the material gets carried away and settled in the sandpit so that it doesn't flow towards the channel and silt up the channel. So this is a typical arrangement made at Visakhapatnam port. So material settles in the sand trap so that the siltation in the channel is avoided. That's why I was discussing about the 2% only the siltation in some of the ports, like in the southern part of the east coast. Like the sand pits are provided at the Chennai Port Trust, Ennore Port, with Visakhapatnam, Paradeep, and all. The siltation is reduced by providing the sand traps outside the breakwater so that the sediments carried due to waves, natural reasons, and then lateral drift, whatever, settles in the sand pits. And this is dredged on a yearly basis and dumped so that the siltation in the channel is minimum and dredging expenditure is minimized. So in this case, sand trap is dredged and the material is carried to the beach, which is being eroded during monsoon due to lateral drift. That is being replenished by pumping onto the beach the material. So you can see the sandbars are created by pumping the material onto the beach, and the beach is protected like this. So this is another case study. With this, I close my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Prasad, for this excellent presentation. You covered almost all the components of the dredging, right from the basics to all the way to the capital and maintenance, as well as on the case studies. The case studies were very self-explanatory, and then actually, for sure, the participants might have understood the full, what you call the physics and mechanism involved in the dredging part. Is it like, can I open the floor for questions? Before that, I have a request. Basically, these sessions are being recorded. We didn't took your permission for the recording. In case if you think that this should not be recorded, we can delete it. Is that fine for you, that this recording can be kept?
Yeah, it's okay. No issue. I have no issue.
Because since this is going online, some of these people, they don't have a microphone properly working. Sometimes the video will not be coming. So that's why they do this recording for their own purpose. So
yes,
that's
you can.
Sorry for not taking
There's
this.
No issue.
Now I open the floor for questions. Any questions for Captain Prasad?
Yes. Hi. I would have a question. I was wondering if you have any information about the impacts on the biodiversity and the ecosystem while dredging, because I guess if you pull out a lot of sand or a lot of sediments from the ground, you're gonna pull in a lot of animals and plants as well, aren't you?
Yeah, okay, but here, like, I don't have any data, like, with regard to the ecosystem and the biodiversity. There are research institutes in India, premier research institutes. Before taking up any project, we have like NTCPWGC, NIO, NIOT, or like we have institutes, research institutes. They carry out a lot of studies before taking up any project with regard to environmental aspects. And then the report is submitted. Accordingly, the environmental clearances are obtained to ensure that environment is protected.
But there's nothing being done before you actually start dredging, like taking in or making a survey of the environment or the place, just to know what you're doing actually, or if there's any.
Actually, the dredging contractor, he doesn't do any survey with regard to environment. with regard to environment, the studies are carried out prior to taking up the project by the people who are doing this project, whatever the port trust, whatever whoever it is. So a lot of studies are being carried out by the researchers, academicians of our premier institutes in India, like as I said, NTC, PWGC or NIO, NIOT, CWPRS, they carry out the studies, and these see if any environmental impacts, and like they promulgate or like they put it from the with the environmental clearances, what all the further studies to be made while dredging. So while dredging, there will be some more studies to be carried out when you dump the material, the distribution pattern, the salinity, how the material is getting distributed, or uh, all the studies will be carried out and reports will be submitted whether they are in line with the clearances given earlier for the project.
With the permission of Captain Prasad, I will add few more lines. So any port authority or waterways authority, they will conduct a EIA first. Environmental impact assessment will be carried out first, and that report needs a clearance first before going in for any development. After that, only the dredging corporation will come into picture. So this is one activity. Another thing also, like we are now carrying out a study. This is something on dredged material, no? Whether we can reuse that material. So this is one of the activity which we are carrying out, and there is an ongoing project in one of our southern states, called the Port of Chennai, where we are already carrying out the what you call reuse of material, how we can able to reuse of this material. This is like going hand in hand, where we will try to have conservation measures at the same time dredging activity as well, so that business as usual, to keep the business as usual.
Yes, this is the latest one. Our government is concentrating on the reuse of the dredged material.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, sir. I have another question. Who can give this permission for the company or to do this dredging? Like, do they need to ask the permission from the government, or is there any law or regulations defining this kind of rights or authority in India? Thank you.
In India, like as I said, for capital dredging, we need permissions. Like normally for building a port or for developing a port. So capital dredging, initially when you carry out the dredging, permissions are required from the Government of India. There are various departments, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Forest, Ministry of Animal Husbandry, Ministry of Shipping. From them, the environmental clearance to be obtained when you take up a new project. So these clearances are obtained by the ports, respective ports, who are carrying out the projects. So dredging contractors, normally they only carry out the dredging. They are not involved in obtaining the permissions. And when you carry out the maintenance dredging, no permissions are required.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I just have a question. So when we talk about dredging on National Waterway 1, sir, I think in the southern parts, like near in the Hooghly River, I think the LAD of 3 meters is maintained, right, sir? But in the upper reaches in near Allahabad and Varanasi, I don't think we are able to maintain the required LAD. And so that's what I want to know. What are the challenges there in terms of dredging and in terms of the depth of the water there?
Yeah,
Why are we not able to maintain the required depth, sir?
Yes. As a dredging corporation of India, like we are dealing with up to the Haldia port or up to the Kolkata port, facilitate navigation for the ships for commercial activities. So whereas coming to the upper part, like facilitate inland water transport, the shallow water dredging is being dealt by the Inland Waterways Authority of India. So right now I don't have much data about this.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we close? Actually, many of them couldn't communicate, but they are all putting it in the chat box. Actually, they thanked a lot. They learned a lot from your presentation. It's like the basics and fundamentals. I think many of them they learned today. So that's why I thought today it's a very important presentation for all of them. So I think almost all of them joined for this presentation. So if there are no further questions, I'll try to end this presentation. I wanted to give big thanks to Captain Prasad, who managed to make his time. Actually, he's flying to another city now for his another work. In between, he managed to manage his time to give this talk based on our request, and it was a very useful and interesting presentation for all of us. I once again thank on behalf of all of our participants. A big thanks to you all, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Lisa, now you can take over the charge from Germany side. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Then I think with this, we go into the break and we meet again in 30 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will meet on BBB platform. Is that
yeah,
correct, Lisa?
Sorry. Yes.
Don't forget that.
BBB.